Thank you, Madam President, Ms von der Leyen, ladies and gentlemen. Listening to this debate, you get the impression that international politics is based on expressing desiderata rather than the balance of power. The level of refusal to accept reality is staggering. For almost 4 years, the Russian war of aggression has been raging against Ukraine. Yes, Putin bears responsibility for this war. Yes, at any time he could end it. And yet, never since the start of the war have we been closer to a ceasefire than now. Now, as a realist, I can tell you I'm not happy about who wrote this plan. And certainly this plan doesn't set out a route to a just and lasting peace either. But at this juncture, it is our best chance to bring the war to an end. And you have to bear the responsibility to do everything in your powers to achieve that objective without, in doing so, selling Ukraine and the EU down the river to the USA and Russia. Now, first and foremost, we owe this peace to the Ukrainian people, whose suffering and privations have to come to an end. You mentioned the civilian victims who had to die. This has to be brought to an end so that hope and joy can shape the lives of people in Ukraine. But I want this peace in place as well so that the burden of war can be lifted from the shoulders of our population as well. Because here there are also many people who are extremely concerned as to whether the war may escalate further and indeed how much more will be required of our societies financially. The truth, ladies and gentlemen, is that war is raging on European soil and the EU hasn't undertaken any diplomatic endeavours worthy of the name or even provided support at least to try and end it. Instead, here in this chamber we've heard again and again mention made of the fact that the war has to be won on the battlefield. Well, at least that's a reality that you're starting to change. Slowly you're starting to realise that the route to a lasting peace is not an unending war, but you're using war at the same time in Ukraine to unleash a massive arms program in the EU to the detriment of social cohesion, public services and the protection of the climate. And at the end of the day, who's going to foot the bill? The workers and families. Your political refusal to accept reality, ladies and gentlemen, your political idleness, Ms von der Leyen, has meant that the European politics has only asked to act once everything's already been decided. Under you, Ms von der Leyen, the EU has become a geostrategic plaything for the interests of the USA and Donald Trump. And part and parcel of the truth is that both Trump and Putin are once again carving up European countries and resources amongst themselves, pushing the EU into a position of being a bystander. They're looking at the spheres of influence and the reciprocal economic relations. And you are just watching idly by, Ms von der Leyen. We have to at least underscore the part in the plan that talks about the Russians paying for the reconstruction of Ukraine, but we need to see debt relief for Ukraine as well. We need to have security guarantees for both sides incorporated into an international security architecture so that peace can endure. We have to have both parties around the table on an equal footing. To endeavour to achieve this is something that you should have accepted from the start. I hope you can learn, but I still have my doubts.
Now, on behalf of the ESN Group, Alexander Sell.